Welcome everyone to episode 2 of the Console Zone. As I said before, we're going to be looking at Game Boy. What better way to showcase Game Boy than on Super Game Boy? The Super Game Boy was released for the Super Nintendo, and it plays every Game Boy game. Well, just about. Ones that have like tilt and tumble with kind of motion controls, they don't quite work on this. And the Game Genie doesn't work on it as well. But the rest of it we're looking at does. Now, a little bit of information about Game Boy. The Game Boy is an 8-bit handheld game console developed and manufactured by, who else? Nintendo. The first handheld in the Game Boy line was released in Japan on April 21st, 1989, then North America 3 months later, and lastly Europe nearly a year after. It was designed by the same team that developed the Game & Watch and several Nintendo Entertainment System games, and Nintendo Research and Development. Nintendo's second handheld game console, the Game Boy, combines features from both the NES home system and Game & Watch hardware. The console features a dull green dot matrix screen with adjustable contrast dial, 5 buttons, which are a directional pad, 2 game buttons, and start and select. A 2-voice speaker with adjustable volume dial, and like its rivals, uses cartridges as physical media for games. The color scheme is made from 2 tones of gray with accents of black, blue, and maroon. At the corners of the portrait-oriented rectangular unit are soft, rounded, save for the bottom right, which is curved. At launch, it was sold either as a standalone unit or bundled with one of the several games, Super Mario Land or Tetris among them. I got Tetris with mine. And Metroid 2 Return of Samus. Now, several accessories were developed, including a carrying pouch and the printer. I don't have the printer yet. Joel did pick up the printer though, which is awesome. Now, despite being technically inferior to its 4th generation competitors, Sega's Game Gear, Atari Lynx, and the NEC's Turbo Express, the Game Boy received praise for its battery life and the durability in its construction. It quickly outsold the competition, selling 1 million units in the United States within a few weeks. The Game Boy and its successor, the Game Boy Color, have sold an estimated 118 million units worldwide. It is the most recognizable device from the 1980s, becoming a cultural icon in the years following its release. Now, several units followed its release on redesigns, including the Game Boy Pocket, I don't have, the Game Boy Light, I don't have. Also, it went into the early 2000s, eventually stopped at the release of the successor, the Game Boy Advance in 2001. Now, it came out as the original model, the Game Boy. It also came out as Game Boy Color, and it also as the Game Boy SP, and so on. We're going to take a look now at the unit itself. Let's see if we can get this on the screen. Here it is. So this is my original Game Boy. Very good condition. As we talked about the ports, there is the power if you have the wall jack, the contrast, which is right there. The game carts go on the back, and when you turn the switch on, the little nub comes out so that you can't pull the game cartridge out. It does have the original sticker on the back and takes 4 AA's. On the other side, we have the extension port where you can plug in the link cable to play games such as Tetris or tennis, and then you have the volume on the side. Now, the other ones that I have, as you saw in my unboxing, I have the Game Boy Color. The Game Boy Color is a little smaller, and we'll see that shortly. I'm going to compare them on the table. But it has the extension port, the volume, but it doesn't have a contrast. It has the power switch on the side and the game goes in the top, but it doesn't have a little nub to stop you from pulling the game out. But instead, it takes 2 AA's, which is great. Then we have the Game Boy SP. The Game Boy SP, its setup is volume, does have shoulder buttons. The extension port is at the top and the power plugs in here. It has rechargeable battery inside, so you don't need to worry about that. Again, we'll take a look at that on the table in just a moment. Super Game Boy. The Super Game Boy is for the Super Nintendo, and you can see it allows to play your games in color. You can also, if you didn't know this, because if you don't have the manual, you won't know this, you can hook up, as you can see down here, there it is, the Mario Paint mouse. You can use that to paint your own borders, your own backgrounds, whatever you like, and you can't save them, but it does give you a bit of a code to use for certain designs to load them back up at a later date. Essentially, the Super Game Boy is all the hardware of a Game Boy inside that cart. But let's take a look at the Game Boys themselves in a better light setting. We're going to jump over to the table behind me, so hold tight, be back with you in a moment. All right, so we are at the table. We're going to take a look at the Game Boy and its hardware and games and accessories that I have. So first of all, we have the original Game Boy. Some of you have it, some of you don't. As we saw, it does have the A and B, start and select, and the D-pad. The battery light, which is important, so you know how much battery is there, and the speaker. And if we turn it sideways, we have the contrast and the power. So you don't have to use the batteries if you don't want to. On the back, you can see, hey, you need help, call service. I don't know if that number works anymore. We have the 4 AA's in there. And on the other side, we have the extension and the volume. And then we have the port for the game. And when you do turn it on, the little knob comes by so that it can't pull out the game. So, we have, for example, Tetris. Tetris came bundled with this Game Boy. So, it's always label facing out. Pop that in. Turn it on. And you get the nice ding. So you make sure that it's to your viewing angle. And kids, I'm sorry, there's no light on it. But as you can see, there it is. All that nice glare. I remember playing this in the car. But yeah. And here is where the little stopper comes out so that you can't pull the game out by mistake. So that is the original Game Boy. The next one that I have, Game Boy Color. Color is a lot smaller, as you can see, compared to the regular Game Boy. Definitely thinner than the Game Boy, but I have a soft spot for the original one. So when we're looking at the Game Boy Color, the screen is much easier to see. It does have the D-pad, start and select A and B. The different thing is the extension port is on the other side with the volume. It takes, I'm shaking the camera, I don't want to do that. It takes 2 AA's And there's no stopper for when you turn on your game. There is the power on the side, and then the wireless port if you want to play with another person instead of using the extension cable. So if we were to put Tetris in there, you can see how more exposed it is at the back than the original Game Boy. So then you would turn it on the side. And you can see it's a lot easier to look at. But again, I have a soft spot for the original one. The speaker isn't as loud. But there you go. You can see it has some color in there. So that is the Game Boy Color. Next up, take that game out of there. There we go. The Game Boy SP. A lot smaller than the other ones. As you can see, here is the Game Boy, and here is the Game Boy Color. A lot smaller. Now, let's put Tetris right there. It is a clamshell. Battery's already in there, so it's rechargeable. You don't take it out. Slots right here for your games. There is the volume slot, or the volume knob. It does have the shoulder buttons, and it has the power and the extension. So you can plug extension cable to play multiplayer. You can plug in the FM tuner that I have, that I showed in my unboxing video. Check it out. And then you have the on and off. So when this opens up, it is pretty much a traditional setup. The A and B, start and select, the light button, and the D-pad. Now, I find it a lot smaller to hold, almost a little bit awkward. I don't know about you guys, but it doesn't feel like a Game Boy to me. Let's plug in Tetris and I'll show you. So when you put original Game Boy games in here, they sure do stick out the bottom, but whatever, can't complain about that. It plays the game. So when you turn it on, turn the volume up, and we'll turn it on if I can get that. There we go. So it's a combination pretty much of color and light. Speaker's a little bit louder, which is great, but if you hit the light button, it shuts it off. It has really good battery life. I haven't had to charge it yet since I got it, since that unboxing. Now, you can use the left trigger and right trigger to change the widescreen, regular I guess, but it looks ugly stretched out. Now, if you do turn off the light, there you go, you get it in the light, you can see it pretty much looks like the Game Boy Color. So that's what we have for the Game Boys. Now if we close that, you can see all of them. Now I wanted to get a Game Boy Pocket, but that was unfortunately, it was for sale, but the person didn't respond, so I'm not getting that at the moment. The Game Boy Micro is expensive, so I don't have one of those. But who knows down the line. Now there have been accessories. There's been bags and bags of accessories, from things that light up the original Game Boy, to carrying them in, to making it look like a Frankenstein monster where you sit the whole device in it. I watched the Angry Video Game Nerd review and look at a lot of those, and they're crazy. But to start off with an accessory, the Game Genie. Everybody knows Game Genie. This one has the code book right in the back. This teeny tiny little code book. What do we have here? Ghostbusters 2 game.
Ghostbusters!
Nice thing is, goes right in the back, so you can save it. Now, you do have the codes on or off the code screen, and you put the game in. Let's take Tetris out of here. We'll move that off the screen and that off the screen. There we go. The weird thing is, you'd think it would sit in this way, right? Wrong. It sits in like the Game Boy does. So it faces the back. Then you pop that monstrosity on there and there you go. You've got something tall and awkward where people look at you funny. No. It's a Game Genie. Just like the Nintendo one, it allows you to enter in codes for your games. If you've never used Game Genie, guys, infinite lives, Mario can jump higher, infinite time, stuff like that. So if you turn it on, listen to that. You got the Game Genie, and then you've got your code screen. And the nice little tunes, just like the Nintendo one. When you're done, you hit start, and your game starts, and we got an invalid code warning. So, obviously an invalid code because we weren't looking in the book, and we just made it up. So, Game Genie's pretty cheap to pick up. Definitely, I'd say pick one up if you can. It's a good little accessory to have for playing certain games like Mega Man, for example. If you can't get far in Mega Man, get yourself one of those. Now, there's also, I don't have batteries for it right now, but I'll show you the Game Boy Light. If you're a child of the 80s and you had a Game Boy, you know that you have a problem seeing things on it. You have to be in direct light, or you have to be sitting on a chair right in front of a lamp just to get light on it. Unless you're outside, obviously. Speaking of outside, there is an actual Game Boy solar charger that works. But I don't have it. So, the light itself, attached on to this top part. So when you go to put it on, you kind of give it a slide in and it snaps on. So there you go. There's the Game Boy Light. You can still see the battery. And when you turn it on, it basically lights up around there so you can see. It does take 4 AA batteries, so it's a bit of a battery hog. And I find that it eats batteries like crazy. Unlike the Game Boy, where I've had batteries in there for half a year, still played it, and it worked just fine. Now, next up is the magnifier. There had been a combination light and magnifier. I have that somewhere. I just don't know where it is, but it came broken and it didn't work. This is for when you want to magnify the screen, obviously. So we are going to pop in Tetris, and here's the magnifier. It's like looking at a big screen TV. This magnifier does, this is the one with the light in it. Well, nice. This does have a light option, but the light is not bright at all. It hardly works. This pops on to the top, as you can see, and it sits on like so. So you still have your switch to turn the Game Boy on and off, and you still have access to the game. So if we were to turn this on, look at that. That's beautiful. You can barely see the screen there. So, yeah, can't really see that. But that's why you have the Super Game Boy. Now, that magnet is the Game Boy magnifier. It does fold up folds up nicely, so you can store it. Next up are the games. Now, these days when you buy the Game Boy games, they don't come with one of these. A case, a dust case, like the almost like the Nintendo ones for the Nintendo cartridges, but this covers the whole game itself. So when you go to put a game in, for example, it sits right inside and clams shut. Great. So now that we've taken a look at the accessories and the product itself, the console I should say, we're going to take a look at what games I have for the system. Some of these do need cleaning. They all work. Some of the outer of the cartridge needs cleaning, but hey, we can do that. First up, obviously, is Tetris, as you saw. And you saw on the Super Game Boy, Metroid 2. We do have Revenge of the Gator Pinball. Have to have Super Mario Land. This is Japanese Donkey Kong Land. Plays just fine. I had to get Golf. Just one of those games. Another Japanese one which was cheaper. The Japanese ones are normally cheaper. There's a bit of English mixed into them. Kirby's Dream Land 1. Sticking with Mario, we have Super Mario Land 2. 6 golden coins. We have Wario Land 2. And another Wario Land, Super Mario Land 3. Those so far are my Game Boy games in collection. It's difficult to come by a Game Boy that's in nice condition or has the original back, especially for the Game Boy Color. They normally have the wrong back to it or a different color. Now you can order those online, which isn't a big deal, but thankfully I didn't have to because the gentleman I bought it from has taken good care of it. The Game Boys, you can normally take off the screen and get a screen replacement if yours is damaged. Some of them don't even come with that screen on them, which they look really crummy. But yeah. Now, oh, there's one thing that I did forget. The headphone jack. The headphone jack is at the bottom here, as well as at the bottom of the Game Boy Color, but Game Boy SP doesn't have one. It instead has a special adapter to plug into the extension, which then converts a headset. It's really weird. Guess going the way of phones. Like the new iPhone doesn't have a headphone jack, it has the converter. Oh well. But yes, those are the consoles and the games for the original Game Boy. Let's go back to the TV. I want to show you a bit of the Super Game Boy on how it looks with Metroid 2 and its features, because technically it's a Game Boy feature. We'll be right back. Alright, so we're back in front of the TV. Metroid 2 Return of Samus. Now again, you can use the Mario Paint mouse to make a custom background. Again, you wouldn't know that really if you don't have the Super Game Boy manual. That's how I found out. I was reading the manual. But it does have the same save states, so you can play it on your Game Boy and then go onto the Super Game Boy and still be able to play it where you left off. So it does have a color palette if you want. You do get the Super Game Boy background. It plays just like Game Boy. Now if you hold left and right triggers, it brings up your options where you can change the palette if you want. You can change the background. So it has obviously the Super Game Boy, just a regular black. Has lovely little cloud windows. like a cork board, I guess. Little tree house. Kind of reminds me of Boy and His Blob for the Wii version. We have, it's like you're on a big screen at a theater. It sure is. We have, you like cats? There they are. You have the option to use your drawing. Oh, I should say that's the last one. Sorry, this one is with the pencils on the side. You then have just kind of an abstract one, and then that's where you can draw at the end. I normally just keep it on the Super Game Boy. I thought I'd draw something really cool, but I found out that you really can't draw anything that looks really, really good. It looks okay, but we'll stick with this one. So if you go back, we had the option for the color palette and the background. Then you can swap the buttons. I like Type A better. You have an option to paint all over the screen if you want. I don't know why you would do that. I guess to make the game harder. It gives you a password on the top of the screen, which is right, see if I can get into the picture, right there, where you can write it down so it'll save it and you can bring it back up at a later date. Then you have the option to make your own border. So as you can see, if you take the red, you can draw around the screen if you want. And again, you can use the Mario Paint mouse if you do have it. Plug it into controller port 2. And then when you're done that, just go back. And you'll want to load up, because it's already on your custom background. Just left and right trigger, and we're back. We have our lovely background we just made. It's fantastic. But yeah, it pretty much Super Game Boy. That's what it does. Plays your Game Boy games. If we take a look at the color palettes, they are quite ugly, some of them. This one seems to be closest I can get to the original Game Boy. There are some other ones that they're just, oh, imagine playing like that. Oh, now this one's kind of like it. It just, some of them are just like, there's the one that it sticks with, but oh, look at that one. Oh, that's not so bad. There's a black and white one. It's just great. But check this one out. It's kind of Game Boy-ish. There is nothing that can recreate the perfect Game Boy color I found. This is as close as you're going to get to playing it on the original Game Boy. But you do get the stereo sound out of your TV, which is great. So yeah, this has been my second episode of Consoles. I hope you enjoyed it. Maybe you learned something, maybe you didn't, but I hope you had fun with the episode. Let me know down in the comments below, what is your favorite Game Boy game? And I know that's going to be a tough one. Maybe name 2 or 3 of them if you like. Mine have to be, first of all, Metroid 2, Return of Samus, Super Mario Land, and Super Mario Land 2. I remember when I did get my Game Boy, when it was brand new, my parents bought me the one with Tetris. It did come with the earbuds. They also bought the wall charger, and they bought Metroid 2, Return of Samus. The cashier said it was a popular game, and he was right. I enjoyed that. I played it all the way to the end. But I am, as always, Captain N, and I will see you